Dear viewers, welcome back to another episode of Editorial Analysis by Drishti IAS. In this segment, we focus on important editorials from major newspapers such as the Hindu, the Indian Express, Live Mint, etc. for effective understanding of our student. Now, through this program, we primarily focus on three things. One, we try to link the editorial with that of the UPSC syllabus. Secondly, we try to decode or decipher what are the key points that are mentioned in the editorial. And lastly, and most importantly, we try to learn what are the key concepts, if any, that are mentioned in the editorial. We truly hope that you love this initiative of Dristhi IAS. Dear viewers, please feel free to give us your valuable suggestions so that we can strive to do better each and every day. So with a lot of gratitude in our heart to our viewers, let us commence today's session of Editorial Analysis.
Dear viewer, this video is available in Hindi as well. If you wish to watch it, please visit our Hindi YouTube channel, Drishti IAS. For your convenience, the link for this video in Hindi has been provided in the description below.
For today, we have opted for the editorial from the Financial Express dated 04/9/2020. The title of the editorial is Ask Me No Questions, wherein the editorial questions the government's decision to suspend both the question hour and the 0 hour. So now let us try to link this editorial with that of the UPSC syllabus. From prelims perspective, we can connect it with that of the Indian polity, and from mains perspective, we can connect it with general studies too, dealing with parliament and state legislatures, functioning and conduct of business. Now, before we try to understand the key points of the editorial, let us try to learn the background or the context to understand the editorial. Now, as you might be aware, the monsoon session of Parliament will be held from September 14 to October 1st. However, the notification by the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha has mentioned that there will be no question hour and the 0 hour will be restricted in both the houses in view of the COVID-19 pandemic. This has led to a lot of hue and cry by the leaders of the opposition parties, and they have opposed the suspension of the question hour and the 0 hour. They have actually accused the government of denying opposition members the opportunity to raise questions on the state of the economy and the coronavirus pandemic. Now, with this background in mind, let us try to look at the key points of the editorial. Now, the editorial states that no matter what the reason, war, an emergency, or even the COVID-19 pandemic, the decision to suspend the question hour and the 0 hour, it projects a desire of the government to avoid accountability. Now, because of the hue and cry raised by the opposition, the government has permitted unstarred questions to be asked. However, the editorial states that this partial yielding is hardly enough to douse the undermining of parliament and democracy. Also, the barring of start questions wherein oral answers are expected from the ministers and there is a follow-up question, it only further fuels the fact that the government is trying to run away from accountability. However, in its defense, the government has stated that since COVID-19 is an extraordinary situation and since a lot of legislative business needs to be concluded, they had to opt for such drastic measures. However, the parliament could have rather worked on weekends as well to complete the work it needs to, and not by suspending the question hour and the 0 hour. Again, another argument raised by the government is that by allowing the normal question hour, it requires that more officials have to be present in the building and therefore it jeopardizes the social distancing measures. However, the editorial claims that this is a very myopic reasoning because world over, various governments have made use of extensive digital technologies to minimize the requirement of human presence while conducting business almost as near normal as possible. Now, another fact the editorial raises is whether the question hours have been suspended before. Yes, there have been suspensions of the question hour in the past. However, it was mostly in the instance of sessions called for special purposes like the declaration of emergency in 1975 and also the imposition of president's rule in certain states. These are the only times when the question hours has been suspended. Even in 1962, during the war with China, the question hour was suspended only after the opposition lawmakers agreed to it. So these are the key points that are mentioned in the editorial. And now we try to move to understand the key concepts that are mentioned in the editorial. So obviously the key concepts that we have to learn from this is the question hour and the 0 hour and their significance as part of devices of parliamentary procedures. Now what is the question hour? See, the first hour of every parliamentary sitting is slotted as the question hour. Now, what does it mean? Now, just imagine hypothetically if there was no COVID and the session was from September 14th to October 1st, the first hour, if the session commences at 10 a.m., the first hour, that is from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., will be slotted as question hour. Now, what happens during this time? During this time, the members ask questions and the ministers usually give answers. Now, the questions are of three kinds, namely start, unstart, and short notice. Now, what is a start question? A start question, which is distinguished by an asterisk, requires an oral answer from the minister in charge. And once the answer is received, the member who has raised this question, that is the start question, also has the right to ask supplementary questions. So that is start question. So now what is an unstart question? Now an unstart question, technically on the other hand, it requires a written answer and hence supplementary questions cannot follow. So usually these are questions asked by parliamentarians in order to understand about certain schemes of the government or to get more information from the government. Now it is important to remember that both of these questions require 15 days prior notice from the presiding officer. Now, the third type of question is the short notice question, and which is very obvious from the title itself, is that it is asked by giving a notice of less than 10 days, and again, it is answered orally, and there is no follow-up to this. Now, one question that can be raised is, are these questions only meant to ministers in charge? No. The questions can also be asked to private members. Now, for instance, if a private member introduces a bill, so of course there will be questions and there will be doubts related to the bill, and questions may be addressed to him or her. Now, the Parliament has comprehensive rules for dealing with every aspect of question hour, and the presiding officers of the two houses, that is the chairman or the speaker, are the final authority with respect to the conduct of the question. Now, what is the significance of the question hour? Now, you need to remember that it is during this 1 hour that members of parliament ask questions to ministers and hold them accountable for the functioning of their ministries. Now, the questions that MPs ask are designed to elicit information and trigger suitable action by ministries. And it has been said that over the last 70 years, MPs have successfully used this parliamentary device to shine a light on the government functioning. And their questions have also exposed financial irregularities and brought data and information regarding government functioning to the public domain. And also with the broadcasting of the question hour since 1991, the question hour has become one of the most visible aspects of parliamentary functioning. So what is the 0 hour? It is an Indian innovation in the field of parliamentary procedures and has been in existence since 1962. Now, unlike the question hour, the 0 hour is not mentioned in the rules of procedure. Thus, it is a very informal device available to the members of the parliament to raise matters without any prior notice. Now, the 0 hour is usually starts immediately after the question hour and lasts until the agenda of the day, this is the regular business of the house, is taken up. In other words, the time gap between the question hour and the agenda, that is the business of the day that I mentioned, is known as the 0 hour. Now, what does its significance mean? Now, the concept of 0 hour started organically in India. As we said, it's an Indian innovation in the first decade of the Indian Parliament, when MPs felt the need for raising important constituency and national issues. Its importance can be gauged from the support it receives from citizens, media, MPs and presiding officers despite not being part of the rule book. Now, for the opposition, especially, that is cramped in a house, which means the opposition is usually less in number than the ruling party and the ruling party tends to enjoy a larger majority. These are precious spaces and opportunities that has to be protected in order to hold the government accountable. So with this, we hope that you've even understood the key concepts of the editorial. And now let us try to look at this issue from the prelims and mains perspective. Now, from prelims perspective, we can definitely expect questions related to the questionnaire, related to the start question, unstart questions, and short notice questions. These can be, asked as part of other questions, or as trick questions also. This can be raised. Also, definitely questions related to 0R. Now, for example, in 2017, a question was asked: the Parliament of India exercised control over the functions of the Council of Ministers through 1. Adjournment motion, 2. Questionnaire, and 3. Supplementary questions. Now select the correct answer using the code given below. Now let's try to look at the question. The Parliament of India exercises control over the functions of the Council of Ministers through 1. The adjournment motion, absolutely yes. 2. The questionnaire, absolutely yes. As I mentioned earlier, they hold the government accountable to these sessions. And then the supplementary questions. Now, supplementary questions, where does it come? As I mentioned earlier, it is part of the start questions, where the minister gives an oral answer, and as a follow-up, a supplementary question can also be asked by the concerned member. So what is the answer? The answer is D, 1, 2, and 3. Now, from mains perspective, so far there have not been many questions asked related to devices of parliamentary functioning. However, this is a question from our end. The legitimacy of the government in a democracy is derived from constant scrutiny by elected representatives. Comment in around 250 words. So, in this answer, you will have to mention about the devices of parliamentary proceedings. That will also include the questionnaire and the 0R. So, dear viewers, please feel free to write your answers in the comment below so that we can discuss this further. So with this, we have ended today's session of editorial analysis. Hope we have done thorough justice to this topic to make it more easy and correlate to what you have learned. So dear viewers, please give us your valuable suggestions so that we can always strive to do better each and every day. So until next time, stay safe, thank you, and good night.